Hello! I want to talk to you about something that I've been planning for about 10 years now, and that's finally coming to a head and happening. Me, my fiancee, and our dog are going to take this bus pretty much across the entirety of America if we can. I've quit my job at the pizzeria. I've got enough income through crowdfunding and through the paid online articles that I've been writing that we can afford to do it. We have a monthly income that's feasible from the road, that's feasible to do from the road, and this bus is almost all the way there. So, time of the bus is upon us, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the sort of philosophical and practical things that I'm going to be trying to do on this trip. So I want to start by talking with a quote from Steinbeck, which is, "A journey is a person in itself, not two are alike, and all plans, safeguards, policing, coercion are fruitless. We find that after years of struggle, we do not take a trip takes us." Like, the whole idea is that the experience of being on the road is transformative. Like, you experience things that you didn't even know were out there, and you end up changed by it. Here's the thing. Steinbeck didn't actually take very much of the trip that he talked about in Travels with Charlie, like hardly any of it at all. In a 2012 book called Dogging Steinbeck, Bill Steigerwald proved that the soon-to-be Nobel Prize winner did not actually travel to half the places he described, and much of the time he was swanking with his wife in excellent hotels. And a great deal of what he wrote was flapdoodle. So flapdoodle is a pretty strong criticism. But there's a tendency in the mid-century authors to sort of exaggerate what they do, like Kerouac particularly. Paul Thoreau is a fellow who brought my attention to Dogging Steinbeck through his really excellent travelogue, Deep South, which he just took a couple of years ago. Paul Thoreau has a concept called the mock ordeal. And the mock ordeal is where a travel author sort of exaggerates their experiences of a trip as being negative or perilous or somehow, like, more epic and difficult than it actually is. He contends that traveling in America is about as easy as you get anywhere in the world. And as far as the freeway and highway system is, he's right. I mean, traveling in America is easy. And it's wrong to say that, like, it's a dangerous thing to go out and do this. It's not. This is an everyday thing. Like, people live in buses and RVs and things all the time. Retirees do. If 55-year-old retirees can do it, I feel like I can pretty much get a handle on it. So the characteristics of the mock ordeal that Paul Thoreau describes are imagining the highway system is dangerous, exaggerating the provincial attitudes of those you meet, like, you go out into the country and you experience ideas that are different from yours, but, like, if you mock them and if you're an asshole about it, that's usually one of the things that, like, characterizes a mock ordeal. Like, a more positive example would be, like, Bill Bryson. Bill Bryson is one of my favorite travel authors, but, like, he doesn't really do anything besides complain. Like, he complains really hilariously, but he complains about everyone. The food, the people, the land, the inconveniences, and ultimately, like, he's out on the road, he's having a good time, but complaint is still the principal worth of the text. So, don't do that. Slumming intentionally, complaining about it, same sort of deal. Kerouac is kind of responsible about that. Like, not only does he complain about it, but, like, he philosophically, like, revels in it. Like, particularly those chapters where he's sort of almost pretending like he's a migrant worker. He's not. He has no idea. But he feels like, you know, he tried it for a couple of days, so maybe he knows. Like, don't do that. That's part of the mock ordeal. And then devotion to self above landscape, which is also a Kerouac trip kind of thing, where the idea is not you traveling through the place, it's you specifically. Like, you carry yourself and you don't change. But, Larry McMurdy, which Paul Thoreau holds up as an alternative example of travel writing, writes this: "What I want to do is treat the great roads like a river, floating down this one, struggling up that one. The idea is that it's more of a flow, an integrated experience. Closer to nature writing than something separate and distinct." And back to Thoreau. McMurdy's book accurately reflects what I feel traveling in America. The solitary experience that is, in many respects, a Zen experience, scattered with road candy, unavailable to motorists anywhere else on Earth. And what he calls road candy, he means, like, really interesting offbeat things, historically, artistically. Like, the more you travel, the more you see weird shit in America, and that's really the focus that I'm interested in. But back to Kerouac. Kerouac was drunk all the time. He was deeply unhappy, and if you actually follow the arc of his career through all of his books, particularly all the way to Big Sur, which is sort of like a cap on the end of On the Road years later, like, he never gets his shit together. He is always unhappy. Unhappy with himself, unhappy with fame. It's a bad example. Here's why. It's navel-gazing. On the Road never really gets outside of Kerouac. Like, it's a celebration of how much fun Kerouac is having, but not a whole lot else. It's also rebellious against a set of norms that really no longer apply. Like, it's not the 50s. Like, I don't really know a single person who hasn't tried drinking and partying and, like, breaking these taboos. Like, everyone knows how to have a good time in 2016. It's not impressive that this guy went to Mexico to smoke marijuana. You can go to, like, a retail store to smoke marijuana in Washington now. It's also just a set of disconnected drunken misadventures. Like, there's really not a lot unifying it, besides the fact that Kerouac is having this rapturous experience of his youth. Like, there's nothing tonally consistent or thematically consistent. It's just him. It's a narcissistic experience. And he's also leaving out that he lived with his mother almost his whole life, and when he went back home after this trip about independence and youth, he went back to living at home with Mom. So, fuck that. Fuck On the Road. The opposite of Jack Kerouac has got to be Edwin Way Teale, who took a lot of, like, incredibly long road trips that were all thematically based in exploring seasons. So he traveled across, like, east to west America with the spring, the summer, the fall, the winter. And he did most of this, like, in his 50s through his 80s. He traveled with his wife, he traveled in a car. And he was definitely old as shit. Like, within 30 pages of one of his books, he's complaining about the young people and their rock music. Like, legitimately, for like a couple of pages, he goes on this rant about this cacophony of noise that the young people insist on bringing with themselves into the wilderness. Like, it's ridiculous. And so, like, hopefully by respecting Edwin Way Teale's artistic sensibilities and the kind of artistic perspective he's coming from, but without being such a crotchety old bastard about it, like, maybe I'll be able to get something, you know, in a similar kind of vein. And that's ultimately what this is all about. Like, we're not doing anything new. Like, people do this all the time, not just, like, generally, but in buses, just like this one. My friend Mitty does this, or has been doing this, for the past 5 years. Like, there's nothing novel, there's nothing special about us deciding to do this, except that it's unusual that someone would actually bother to sever their ties with, like, leases and city life, put all their shit in storage. Like, it takes a commitment, and I've committed most of the past few years in terms of time and money to trying to get this thing on the road. Like, it's taken a really, really long time to get to this point, and for a long time we didn't have any money at all. And we just sort of kept the thing going and kept the hope alive, and, like, it's finally fucking here. Like, it's going into the shop one more time, and then we should be there, finally. Anyway, but the other point of this is that, like, we won't have any sort of housing expenses on the road because we're taking our home with us. In the most compact possible way, it really is a motorhome. It has a bed, it has an office, it has heat, it has electricity. Like, it has everything that we need to live comfortably, relatively comfortably, like, in an incredibly tiny, like, 18 miles to the gallon package. We're going to use 4G hotspots to stay connected to the internet. We're going to use local wireless connections to upload videos. We're going to be remaining connected to the sort of new empire of the air that is 4G wireless. I'm going to have our generating income every month, hopefully through Patreon, and even if not, then through the articles I got coming in. Like, I haven't been going too crazy with, like, trying to pitch to too many outlets. I've just been trying to do, like, an article or two a month for mostly Polygon and Blixel, and that's been a really powerful experience. Like, I feel like I've grown as a writer, and, like, I'm really grateful for the opportunity. It's been a hell of a thing, but, like, that's enough of a part-time income for gas, and gas is the primary expense outside food. Anyway, this thing is a 1.7 liter motor that's 40 years old, and it says in the manual not to take it over 60. So it's going to be a slow trip, it's going to be leisurely, it's going to be the way of it. Like mechanically, philosophically, that's going to be the whole thing. We can drive 55. And then we're going to be getting a 4K camera suite, and this whole thing is going to be just a platform for experiencing, relaying real life adventure, but also have all the like modern connectivity I need to continue to evaluate virtual worlds and virtual adventures as game critic. Like it's going to be the whole shebang in one 14-foot by 5-foot package. So by upgrading to the GoPro setup, I'm also going to have 1080p guaranteed. So GoPro is cheap and reasonable and easy to work with and waterproof, so it seems like a pretty good way to go. By staying here in this house, like there's so many expenses that you gotta deal with, so many bills. But by condensing all of that and just not worrying about a place for our stuff, like there's all sorts of shit we can do. All we really need is money for gas and food and activities. That's it. So in a number of ways, the American road trip is like a game, and hear me out on this. It's a repeatable experience. It has a determined structure, a general narrative that it follows, and it's individualistic within like how you do it. There's a huge degree of interactivity and choice, mechanically, artistically. Like everyone does the road trip their own way, but the format of the road trip is like a generalized experience and a rite of passage that people go through. It shares like many game-like elements, which is why people use the road trip as sort of a game design idea so frequently. So the objectives of travel and bus are to explore hidden places and seek challenging encounters. Like we want to see things that do challenge our perspective. We want to like really actually see what America is like. And I honestly have no idea. I know what my bubble is like, but I haven't really seen too much outside it. I haven't really been able to afford to get out of the city in years. And then there's all of these like beautiful, obscure, hidden pieces of America, both like naturally and culturally, that we really want to get into and we want to relate. We also want to grow into something more than you were when you started. Like every time I've had a major road trip, like it has changed me as a person. And hopefully going on a road trip that's essentially in Ouroboros highway, like never really ending, then that's going to be the most profound of all. Like hopefully, I mean who knows, but I really think that this is going to be a hell of a thing. Anyway, acquire interesting trinkets, inventory management. Again, this is 14 feet by 5 feet, so you gotta have this balance of like the stuff that you need, the stuff that you want, the stuff that you like. Like your whole approach to stuff becomes totally different than if you were doing the suburban thing. And then find context for the self in the broader world, which is really what travel literature in general is about. Like you have your own assumptions and then you get them blown out of the water by whatever you see. So in a lot of ways success is seen as like acquiring money, but what the fuck does money matter except for like what you can actually use it for? So what the bus is going to end up being is basically a money translation device. So cash money becomes stuff, spectacle, food, and gas. Gas becomes distance, and with the distance you can see local things, you can see natural things, you can get outside the city, you can engage if you can make it there, and you can find new things. You need food, but you gotta stop, you gotta get food, you gotta actually like meet people, talk to people. You want spectacle, and there's all sorts of spectacle to see. You want stuff, but you got this limited amount of room for stuff. So when you actually spend money, you're mostly spending it on activities, things to do, experiences. And that's the thing, like this whole galaxy of possibilities in this bus really just boils down to translating money into experience. And that's how I want to do it. Like, I'm being crowdfunded quite a bit now, and there's, two ways that I could go. You could go the YouTuber simulator route and get a better and better room with more and more impressive stuff. Or, the way I see it anyway, you could just go fucking whole hog and do something crazy with it, because like I don't know another time in my life where I'll be this young and where I'll have this amount of money that I can make from anywhere, and where I'll be like at this professional crossroads where I'm not exactly an amateur anymore, but I'm not exactly a professional either, and I have a lot of freedom in like how I can choose how I work and the way I work and where I work. Like, this intersection of money and freedom, I don't know if it's ever going to come again in my life. So, I mean, in terms of striking while the iron is hot, this is the time. So the bus is a professional tool. Like, it's not just a like cool cultural object. Although, like, as far as, you know, mechanical objects go, you couldn't choose much better. I mean, the whole point of the VW bus is that it was engineered as a response to the economic collapse after World War I. The idea is that there should be like a house car that you can repair yourself, and in case something disastrous happens to society, you've got this thing. And like, I don't necessarily think anything as disastrous is going to happen to society, maybe, but like, it is a beautifully compact way to live, and like, these fuckers at Volkswagen thought of everything. Like, it is a genius little piece of technology. It's everything you need, but really just no more than what you need. Like, it's great. But anyway, it's a bedroom, it's an office. We're gonna have power 3 different ways. We're gonna have this power bank, basically, that you can charge from solar 12-volt or a wall socket. And it stores 1,250 watt-hours, which is enough to run my laptop for pretty much a whole day. Like, going crazy with the laptop, too, like full graphics, everything. So we just need to like periodically stop in towns to recharge, and then like the solar panel won't recharge 100 watts per hour, obviously. It'll trickle in at a rate less than that, but still, like, you can use the solar panel to drastically slow energy consumption on a nice day and that sort of thing. There's like a lot of options for gaming on the road with a power bank setup, basically. Then we're going to use 4G wireless for connectivity, and the 4K GoPro setup I talked about. So, I realize a lot of you are probably concerned that I'm going to be splitting my attention too far away from games, but honestly, behind the scenes, my attention hasn't been entirely on games this whole time anyway. Like, if you've been paying attention to my channel, like, I've been doing this shit in the background, hoping it would come together the entire time I've had this channel. This idea goes back 10 years. More. This is my life's ambition, basically. Before I ever had an idea for a YouTube channel, I had an idea to do something like this, but since I've had a YouTube channel, like, I have so much more of a specific and comprehensive idea for like how I want to do this. Like, this reading list that I've had going on in the background, the time I put into like fixing this bus, like, this has already been splitting my attention from games this entire time. It's just that it hasn't been ready, so I haven't been wanting to talk about it. But we're here now, so like, it's going to be a pretty much even 4-way split between playing games, between traveling, between writing, and between sleeping. Like, my fiancee, like, is incredibly supportive of the way I'm doing the thing I'm doing with my writing and with my YouTube career, and like, doesn't mind that like this is how I'm going to have to make my money on the road. And like, it's a joy. I love doing games videos. I'm not going to stop doing it just because I'm on the road. Like, I've put incredible effort into making sure that I'm able to keep doing my business mobily, like truly mobily, nomadically. So the content you're gonna get. You're gonna keep getting long forms games videos. That's my jam. You're gonna keep getting the jam. There's gonna be paid games articles, again, mostly for Polygon and Glixel. That's gonna keep on going. There's gonna be short, informative travel videos, like just about interesting places, both like natural and man-made, as we pass through them. And then there's gonna be long, reflective travel essay videos, probably a while after the fact, because it takes a while to sort of reflect on what you've seen before you get these. But like, we're going to build up this repository of footage that's going to be just so clutch. Like, I'm going to use the same principles of video capture that I've learned in making YouTube videos, like the way you just hit record when you think something interesting is going to happen, because you have that fixed camera perspective. Like, we're going to have the 4K on the nose of the bus, we're going to get the backpack camera mount, and it's going to be the same kind of deal. We're just going to be able to passively record what we're looking at, and then have this huge like hard drives full of footage to use for these essays later, like to illustrate them. So if you think that this is a terrible idea, I'm really sorry, but I'm doing it. So you can delete or ask for refunds for Patreon, even if you're like, I can't believe you're doing this, I feel betrayed, give me all of the money I've ever given you back. I'm amenable to that. Like, it's a huge change. So if you're extremely unhappy with the change, I mean, send me a message about it, I'll give you your money back. If you feel that strongly about it. And if you don't donate, but are still like, I don't want to fucking hear you travel shit, like, you can unsubscribe and not have to hear about it. And if you are gonna keep paying attention to my stuff, but really hate the idea that I'm gonna be doing travel content anyway, the comment section is always open. You can let me hear about it there. If you like this idea, if you think I ought to keep going with it, you don't have to do anything. I have enough money right now to make it work. So if you're donating, please keep donating if you like this idea. I don't actually need anything extra. Obviously, like, more money, more helpful, but you don't have to. So if you wanted to chip in more for this idea, because it is a more ambitious idea than the game videos that I've been doing so far, it would be great. I would be grateful. But mostly just keep watching. And if you don't care, that's totally okay, because I'm going to keep doing the things that I'm doing anyway. So if you don't give any sort of shit that I'm doing travel content, you can just ignore those videos completely and still get the game videos that I'm doing. In any case, I really want to thank everybody for watching, for being subscribed to my channel, and for sticking with me while I do these really weird, outrageous ideas. So I appreciate it. Thank you. And see you on the road then. There's a tendency in the mid-century authors to sort of exaggerate what they do, like Kerouac particularly. Paul Thoreau is a fellow who brought my attention to Dogging Steinbeck through his really excellent travelogue, Deep South, which he just took a couple of years ago. So Paul Thoreau has a concept called the mock ordeal, and the mock ordeal is where a travel author sort of exaggerates their experiences of a trip as being negative or perilous or somehow like more epic and difficult than it actually is. He contends that traveling in America is about as easy as you get anywhere. And back. It is a journey as a person in itself, not two are alike, and all plans, safeguards, policing, coercion are fruitless. We find that after years of struggle, we do not take a trip takes us. Like, the whole idea is that the experience of being on the road is transformative. Like, you experience things that you didn't even know were out there, and you end up changed by it. Here's the thing. Steinbeck didn't actually take very much of the trip that he talked about in Travels with Charlie, like hardly any of it at all. In a 2012 book called Dogging Steinbeck, Bill Stagwell proved that the soon-to-be Nobel Prize winner did not actually travel to half the places he described. Much of the time he was swanking with his wife in excellent hotels. A great deal of what he wrote was flapdoodle. So flapdoodle's a pretty strong criticism, but in the world. And as far as the freeway and highway system is, he's right. I mean, traveling in America is easy. And it's wrong to say that, like, it's a dangerous thing to go out and do this. It's not. This is an everyday thing. Like, people live in buses and RVs and things all the time. Retirees do. If 55-year-old retirees can do it, I feel like I can pretty much get a handle on it. So the characteristics of the mock ordeal that Paul Thoreau describes are imagining the highway system is dangerous, exaggerating the provincial attitudes of those you meet, like, you go out into the country and you experience ideas that are different from yours, but like, if you mock them and if you're an asshole about it, that's usually one of the things that like characterizes a mock ordeal. Like, a more positive example would be like Bill Bryson. Bill Bryson is one of my favorite travel authors, but like, he doesn't really do anything besides complain. Like, he complains really hilariously, but he complains about everyone. The food, the people, the land, the inconveniences, and ultimately, like, he's out on the road, he's having a good time, but complaint is still the principal worth of the text. So don't do that. Slumming intentionally, complaining about it, same sort of deal. Kerouac is kind of responsible about that. Like, not only does he complain about it, but like he philosophically like revels in it. Like particularly those chapters where he's. Hello, I want to talk to you about something that I've been planning for about 10 years now, and that's finally coming to a head and happening. Me, my fiancee, and our dog are going to take this bus pretty much across the entirety of America if we can. I've quit my job at the pizzeria. I've got enough income through crowdfunding and through the paid online articles that I've been writing that we can afford to do it. We have a monthly income that's feasible from the road, that's feasible to do from the road, and this bus is almost all the way there. So, time of the bus is upon us, and I want to talk to you a little bit about the sort of philosophical and practical things that I'm going to be trying to do on this trip. So I want to start by talking with a quote from Stein.